So you want to make some money on the day you buy a property, doesn't everybody? In today's video, we're going to address that. We're going to talk about how you can make money, i.e. buy below market value on day one. And I'm going to give you a very good example straight at the beginning of this video. If you can find a house that's worth 100,000 and you can pay 85,000, I mean true market value, it would sell for 100,000 and you can buy it for 85,000. Then you're making 15% of your money on day one. You're insulating yourself against a market correction of 15%, or you're making that in profit straight away. And the reason that this is so valuable is that property is one of the only asset classes where you have the opportunity to do that. It's highly unlikely you're going to be able to negotiate and haggle on the price of gold. Gold is spot price, you will pay that number. It's highly unlikely you'll be able to negotiate on the value of a stock because they can just be sold on the open market. Property has this absolute advantage where you do have the opportunity to negotiate with somebody who may have a legitimate problem. And today I'm going to talk about how you would go about it and how I've successfully done it in the past and how I would plan to do it in the future. So if you like this sort of video, if you want to make money in property, give this video a big like. It does help me out with the algorithm. And if you haven't already subscribed, consider subscribing. Until I get to 10,000 subscribers, you can book a free one-to-one call with me anytime you want. Just look in the description, there'll be a link, click it, job done, me and you will connect, and I'm not going to try and sell you anything, I absolutely promise. So let's start talking about how we're going to find you a below market value deal. Now there's 3 or 4 ways of doing it, and some people will say you should go out and letterbox and send out flyers to all the different addresses in a certain area. Some people might say look on Gumtree and places like that. I've tried all of it, and most of it is a complete waste of time, if I'm honest. You're going to do far more effort doing any of that than you are going to have meaningful conversations with estate agents. And let's face it, if you were going to sell your house, be rational. If you were going to sell your house, what's the first thing you would do? Would you put it on Gumtree? Would you respond to a flyer coming through your door? No, you're going to go and speak to your estate agent. You're going to go and find out what it's worth. That is the reality, and that is why, generally speaking, and in my career to date, my best deals have all come from estate agents. And granted, some of them have never made it onto Rightmove because of relationships I've built, but they've all come from estate agents. So I'm going to run through 3 of the different scenarios of how I've generated really good value for money, made some money, significant returns in some cases, by having the right conversations with the right agents and making sure that that relationship is nice and strong. So the first thing to understand is that agents are going to speak to people like this all the time. So you've got to stand out and you've got to make sure that you sound and know what you're talking about. So for example, I might be phoning up about a house in reasonable condition that's worth about £100,000, and I know I need to buy it for about 85 to 90. And the conversation with the agent would go something like this. Hiya, I wonder if you can help me. I always like to ask for help because in the UK, people like to help people. I wonder if you can help me. I'm looking at this house on Main Road. Do you know the one? Let them speak, let them tell you a little bit. Look, I'm an investor, and obviously for me to buy something like this, I'm not really too fussed about the condition. I'm going to be renting it out. Hopefully I'll be able to use your services during that process. Again, building some trust, and maybe they'll get some reciprocal business. I can't buy this for £100,000, obviously. Do you know the seller's circumstances, and do you think they would be open to an offer in the region of 85,000? Now that is going to open up the conversation for an offer straight away. And the reason I want to do that is because I don't want to go and view the house. I don't want to point out all its flaws. I don't want to have all that hassle. I want to get it straight out of the way. Do you know the seller? Do you think they'd be open to an offer? And that really is the leading question. And then you shut up. You say nothing. You let them talk. You listen to the explanation. And maybe say, oh, you know what, we've had an offer of 92, that was declined. And then you start to gauge what are the opportunities that you have within that. Okay, they declined that offer, fine. Was it because they were looking for more money, or was it because the buyer maybe had some slightly dodgy circumstances or had an onward chain? Obviously, as an investor, I'm chain free, I'm ready to move, I've got my deposit in the bank, I'm ready to put in an offer today, and I can complete in a very short space of time. I would be end of chain, obviously, as I haven't got anything to sell in order to buy this. So all of these things are real major strengths to you. And maybe this property isn't the one for you. And in my experience, 9 times out of 10, it's highly possible that this won't be the right one. It is a volume game when you're playing this game. Not everybody wants to sell their property below market value. But there will be some circumstances, and I'm going to give you 3 great examples of where this has worked for me. And every single time I've had the same conversation. I'm an investor, this is my circumstance, this is how I win at property investing. Do you think the seller would be open to something like this? Before I've even seen the property, because I'm not interested in wasting my time going and viewing houses where the seller's just gonna be like, no, it doesn't work for me, the money doesn't work for me. What's the point? Get it all out over the phone. So the 3 examples I'm gonna give you, and I'm gonna give you the address as well, so I'm gonna tell you exactly what happened. Number 1, Harbour Avenue. Bought a house in Sheffield in Harbour Avenue. We offered £90,000 for a house that was worth about £115,000. The seller was moving to Spain. Their buyer had fallen out and they were end of chain. So without a buyer to buy their property, they couldn't fulfill their dream of moving to Spain. We stepped in, we paid the price that we were willing to pay. We would have probably paid a little bit more, to be honest, but we paid a price that they were willing to accept. And that meant that they were able to complete their move to Spain within the requisite time. Again, all started from a conversation with an agent, all started with, hey, do you know whether they'd be open to something like this? Yes, do you know their buyer has just pulled out? Amazing, music to my ears. They're moving to Spain and their buyer has just pulled out. Absolute music to my ears. So the second property I'm going to go through, Mill Road in Wellingborough. We paid $126,000 for it. It was vacant because the owner had died and the son and daughter wanted to get it sold. Actually, the son and daughter wanted to renovate it and then sell it, but they didn't have the capital required to do that. So the agent sort of explained to me, it's in an uninhabitable state, you can't get a mortgage on it. Absolute music to my ears. I can solve this problem, I'm thinking. Straight away, it's either a cash purchase or we do a bridging loan. We can get some money off. I think it was up for 150, knowing that it needed about 40K's worth of work, be worth about 200. Obviously those numbers don't work for me. I need to get it for around about 120 to 130, spend 35 and then have my profit on the top, which would double that 35 investment. So I was able to negotiate down to 126. It took quite a while actually. They were stuck at like 135, 140 and I couldn't get anywhere near that. So it took about a month to negotiate because other people went and saw it, did the same appraisal that I did, which is if I'm an investor, there's got to be some money in it, and nobody who was going to buy it, who couldn't get a mortgage on it, was going to live in it. So the reality was they were stuck with somebody who was going to make some money out of the project. And that meant they had to sell it to someone like myself. We bought it for 126, we spent 35, it was revalued at 200,000, a good 30K profit in it. Excellent, what an amazing deal. Third one I'm going to use an example. So that was someone relocating, for number 1. Number 2 was a death. Number 3 was a tired landlord. And this is Stamford Walk in Corby. They had a nightmare tenant. I have never had a nightmare tenant this bad. Their tenant stole the kitchen. They stole the bathroom. They stole the flooring. They stole the windows. They stole everything out of it and drove it to Eastern Europe. Unbelievable. I've never heard a story like it, but I believe it and it was true. So this house had boarded up windows, it had no front door, it had no kitchen, it had nothing. And it was a 4-bedroom house in Corby, it was worth about 210, 220. It did still have a roof, which was nice. They would have stolen the roof if they could have, I'm sure. So anyway, what happened was, again, it was up for like 130, 140. I'd appraised it of needing about 40 to 50K's worth of work. I wanted to make a profit of about 40 to 50K on that, which meant that I needed to buy it for between 110, 120. I ended up settling at 116. We bought it on a bridging loan, had the work done in about 6 weeks, bang, refinance, value back up to 200, and it worked out perfect. Now the landlord could have probably done it himself, but he was tired and he did not want the hassle. And I can appreciate that. If you just had your kitchen, windows, bathroom, everything stolen out of the house, and I can only assume he didn't insure it because why the hell else would you not have got all that stuff back? You would be tired as well in that circumstance. So, bought it at that price, managed to make some money, again, below market value. So there's 3 opportunities in about the space of 1 year that came across to me by making about 30 or 40 phone calls. Now again, you have to be targeting the properties that you want to buy anyway. So if you're not interested in buying 300-400 grand houses that are 2 bedrooms in London, don't phone them all. But if you're interested in a certain area, you've got some expertise, you can start to build relationships with agents, then that is an excellent way of doing it. Now the second way that you can do it, so that's doing it all yourself, the second way you can do it is speak to somebody who genuinely buys a lot of houses. And by doing that, they will probably have those relationships with agents already. So some of the deal sources out there are going to be reputable, are going to have those relationships with agents in certain areas. I know, for example, that my guys that I use in Sheffield, Wellingborough, Kettering, Corby, they've got excellent relationships. I'm getting emails all the time with more properties than I could ever buy. And some of them are amazing deals. I just couldn't buy them all. There's no way. So guys, that's the 2 routes I would go. Number 1, I've explained to you exactly how you could go out and find a below market value deal. What sort of number are you looking to get off? If you're looking at the moment at something that's ready to move into, if you manage to get 10 to 20% off, you've done well. That's the sort of number. If you're looking at something that needs work, you need a much bigger margin to take the risk that you're going to have to put in terms of capital. So I would be looking at making sure that if I was going to invest 30, 40k in a renovation, I was getting 30, 40k in profit. That would be as simple as that. I need to make the similar amount to what I'm putting in, otherwise it's not worth the capital. I might as well buy 2 or 3 already done up properties and put my capital to work straight away. Guys, what do you think to my suggestions? Put the comments down below. I will respond to absolutely every single one of you. And again, if you haven't booked your call, book your call. Till I got to 10,000 subscribers, look in the description. I'll see you on the next video. Cheers, guys.